Could Adley Rutschman upset Julio Rodriguez for the AL Rookie of the Year? Is Scott Servais a lock for Manager of the Year? All that and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by Vroom. With Vroom, you can buy a car entirely online and have it delivered straight to you, so you never have to go to a dealership again. So next time you need to buy a car, just grab your phone, go to vroom.com, and check out thousands of great cars. It is Thursday, September 8th, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, with new episodes dropping every Monday through Friday. I am your host, Haniger Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com. For Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, the CANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Control the Zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. Again, that is patreon.com/Control the Zone. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you listen to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. On the show today, is Julio Rodriguez in jeopardy of losing the American League Rookie of the Year? After we answer that, we'll tell you why Scott Servais is a no-brainer for Manager of the Year. And finally, we'll wrap things up by looking at the future of Mitch Haniger in Seattle. Will he stay or go this offseason? We'll give you our thoughts on that a little later on. But before we get into our first topic of the show, quick reminder of a special project that we are doing here on the Locked On Mariners podcast that we announced on yesterday's episode. But if you missed it, we are asking you to be a part of a very special episode of Locked On Mariners later this month by submitting a video of yourself about 45 seconds to a minute long, explaining what the Mariners making the playoffs would mean to you. So please start out the video by saying your name, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and then telling us what the Mariners finally ending this 20-year playoff drought would mean to you. Email your submissions over at lockedonmariners@gmail.com by Friday, September 16th, and you're in. So with that, let's get into our first topic. It seemed as if Julio Rodriguez was cruising to the AL Rookie of the Year award, but Adley Rutschman, Baltimore Orioles catcher, who, yes, we forgot to mention during our catcher discussion, talking about Cal Raleigh the other day, has just continued to produce. He has basically caught Julio Rodriguez in Fangraphs WAR. He's at 4 F4 flat. Julio is at 4.2, but Julio, of course, started the year at the major league level. Adley didn't make his debut until May 21st, which honestly makes what he's been able to do even more impressive given the shorter amount of time. But is that enough to put him over the hump against Julio here in the Rookie of the Year race, Colby?
I don't think so. Kind of the one thing that's kind of working in Julio's favor, and this type of thing shouldn't really matter, but it kind of does. The Mariners are set to end their 20-year playoff drought. Julio was an all-star. Julio, put on the show at the Home Run Derby, and he is inarguably the best player on a team that's going to the playoffs, and Baltimore is probably not. So it's one of those things where it's like, do voters weigh that? There's different voters for Rookie of the Year than there are MVP, so it's a little up in the air, but I do think that's something that's going to help Julio in the long run. I think it's also worth noting that while you look at the ratio numbers are pretty close, and Oriole fans would be quick to point out that, well, Adley's done that in a lot less time than Julio. That's kind of not the argument you think it is, because the league has had an opportunity to adjust to Julio, and Julio has had to adjust to the league. The league really hasn't made their final adjustments to Adley yet. They still quite don't know what to do with him. So it's one of those things where Julio has played so long that he has had to work through some struggles. Adley really hasn't yet. So it's one of those things where you sit here and you say, well, Julio or Adley's played in 30 less games than Julio. I mean, obviously he's been better in a shorter amount of time. Well, he hasn't been better. And again, the shorter amount of time doesn't really help you much. There's a reason we're not sitting here saying, Sam Haggerty should be signed to a 6-year, $100 million contract because his 145 WRC plus, what does it really mean? So it's one of those things where, there's certainly arguments for Adley, and I think, most years Adley would win it. Just Julio's 2020, he's got 20 doubles, he's got, played plus defense at a premium position. He should have won the Derby. He was an all-star. And now he's going to be the best player on the team that breaks the longest playoff drought in North American sports. And we should, in fairness, we should throw Stephen Kwan into this discussion. He's been very good all season long, just pretty much like Julio, but it's just a little less impact out of Kwan. So it's a really good year for rookies in the American League. Bobby Witt Jr.'s had a pretty decent year as well. George Kirby's also had a very, very nice year. So there's going to be a lot of discussion about AL Rookie of the Year. I think it's a 2-horse race, but there are actually some guys, further down the ballot. Seeing who finishes 3rd through 10, I think, is as deep as they go. That's going to be pretty interesting too, because you can make a really good case for George Kirby or Bobby Witt Jr. or Jeremy Pena. There's a lot of guys in that 3 to 10 range who deserve a lot more respect. But in terms of the top, to me, it's Julio. It's probably Adley and then Kwan. And I think all 3 of those guys are going to get first place votes somewhere.
Colby, this would be a great debate if there was actually a debate to be had. I just don't think that there is one right here. It's Julio. It's Julio, unequivocally Julio. Yes, there is some arguments to be made for Adley. The stretch that he's been on since his atrocious first month in the big leagues, and by the way, both of these guys had atrocious first months in the big leagues, and have just been dominant since then. But he's had a great run since his first month in the big leagues. Adley, we're talking about here. His first month in the big leagues was May 21st through June 21st. He went 207, 277, 337 with 1 home run, 7 doubles, and a triple, and a 79 WRC plus during that time. Since then, 279, 397, 502, 9 home runs, 22 doubles, 28 RBI, 159 WRC plus with premium defense at a premium position. That's amazing. There's no question as to how he got to 4F WAR so quickly. He's been incredible, and he's one of the reasons that the Orioles just won't go away. That said, the voters for these things like highlights. They like numbers. And Colby, you and I have talked about, or back when Kyle Lewis was up for Rookie of the Year and was competing with Luis Robert, you talked about how usually these Rookie of the Years they have a Heisman moment. They have one moment that really stands out that kind of solidifies them as the guy. Kyle Lewis had the catch against the A's and the catch against the Dodgers as well. Julio has the Derby, and he has some pretty nice defensive plays, and he has some big home runs and some loud exit velocities, all that. And on top of that, the numbers are just a lot flashier than Adley's as well. Since his poor month of April, he's slashing 282, 339, 516 with 23 home runs, 18 doubles, 3 triples, 62 RBI, and 15 stolen bases. So he has more stolen bases, more runs batted in, more home runs, and as far as the whole year goes, he has more extra base hits as well. So could Adley catch him? Yes. If Julio goes down the tank over the next 3 weeks, sure. Could Adley surpass him? Yes. But let's use our brains here, folks. Julio's not going to go down the tank. He's starting to get further and further removed from his wrist injury. He's looking better at the plate. He's had some really nice at-bats as of late. I think he's going to finish out the year strong. Put an exclamation point on this run and put any doubt about him potentially, losing this out of anyone's minds. So Julio's the guy.
Yeah, I'm sure the Mariners are hoping so, because they want that first round pick that comes with the Rookie of the Year award. And it is worth noting that even if Adley does win, Baltimore does not get any draft pick compensation, but Adley gets a full year of service time. So if you're an Orioles fan, you probably should be rooting for Julio to win this award, unless you want to lose Adley Rutschman in free agency 1 year sooner than you otherwise would have. Don't even get a draft pick in return. You got to be on the opening day roster to be eligible for the draft pick compensation and Rookie of the Year voting. And that means Kwan is and Julio is, but guys like Adley and Kirby are not. And that's just kind of the way the rules are written. So we'll see what happens, but I think, Julio eventually. I think Julio will be the winner. Um, I don't think it's going to be unanimous or anything like that. I think Adley's going to get plenty of votes, and I do think that Quan will even grab a first place vote or two. He's had a very good year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great for the game overall, right? Like, this is not to complain or put down any of these other players that are going up against Julio. This is awesome. I love that Adley Rutschman came up and is really good right away. I love that Stephen Kwan basically came out of nowhere. I love that Bobby Witt Jr. has had a pretty solid year as well. Like, that's awesome for the future of our game. The fact that we have guys that are becoming, the faces of baseball immediately. I just think that, Julio has the chance to be the face of baseball. Adley is more like the Buster Posey, Mike Trout type of superstar, where, like, people in the game know that he's one of the best, but to the outside world, he's not the most marketable guy. Whereas Julio, I mean, dude reeks of marketability.
Yeah, it's just, and I do think there's something to be said that Julio is doing what he's doing at 21 years old. Adley is 24. So
true. It's a very good
I mean,
point as well.
it's with a ton more baseball experience than Julio, both in college and in the minors. So just one of those things that, we'll see what the voters want to care about this year. So there's always that curveball that comes where one year they care about pitchers' wins and the other year they don't. So we don't really know, but I do think Julio will win. I think Adley will finish in a close second, and then I think Stephen Kwan is third, and then we'll kind of see where George Kirby lands and Bobby Witt Jr. My guess is those are the top five at the end of the day.
Yeah. And to me, you can't use the premium defense argument here either with Adley against Julio, because Julio plays a premium position as well, and he plays it very well, just like Adley does. Both play up the middle. They're very comparable players in that sense, and therefore there isn't really an argument that you can or an advantage that either one of those guys can get with the glove. And let's be real about it, voters aren't going to take defense into account here anyway, so it's going to be about what they do offensively. And Julio just unequivocally has the flashier numbers. He has the numbers that get you on SportsCenter. Adley just doesn't this year. He's a really good ball player though. Just Julio's been a bit better, and that's what it is, and he should be the rookie of the year this year unless he just completely goes down the tank and Adley has an incredible finish to the season. All right, so we're going to stay with awards. We're going to switch gears to manager of the year. To me, it's a no-brainer that Scott Servais is the American League manager of the year, and I think really the only competition that he has is another Oriole. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Blue Chew. Guys, we all know that confidence can take you far in life. That's especially true in the bedroom, especially when it's time to step up to the plate. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. And with Blue Chew, men everywhere are excited to see the postman, because when your package has arrived, your package has arrived. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code LOCKEDON to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. So, Colby, Scott Servais he was deserving of manager of the year last year in my mind. Ended up losing it to Kevin Cash. This year, though, the guy's going to end the longest playoff drought in North American sports. We hear it all the time about this playoff drought. It's the biggest story whenever someone talks about the Seattle Mariners. might be the biggest story in all of baseball this year. The fact that the drought, barring some sort of collapse, is going to end in the next 3 or so weeks. And for the guy that leads that charge, that is basically the face of ending that drought outside of, the players, right? He's got to be the winner here, right? There should be no question in my mind. I think the only competition that he has is Brandon Hyde of the Orioles, and that's only if the Orioles make the postseason, which would be, ridiculous, right? No one expected the Orioles to make it, but also, even if they do make it, that's still not as big of an accomplishment as ending the longest playoff drought in major North American professional sports. It's Scott Servais all day long. Just like it's Julio Rodriguez, unequivocally in my mind, it's Scott Servais for Manager of the Year. Do you agree?
I think I'll probably go Tony La Russa. Seems pretty deserving. No, actually, I think it will be Brandon Hyde. Unfortunately, Scott missed his shot to win, even though he didn't do anything wrong last year. And now it's we see this a lot in the NFL, right? Where like John Schneider doesn't win Executive of the Year the year he takes, Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner and Bruce Irvin and the Seahawks, become this juggernaut that nobody wants to face. They give it to somebody else because he drafted Andrew Luck. And then after that, well, of course he's not, because he's not eligible for that because we expect him to be good. Well, Scott's kind of going to fall in that category here. Even if he ends the playoff drought, I just think that people are going to look at Brandon Hyde and Manager of the Year and all that stuff typically comes down to like, who's the biggest surprise? We all know that's usually what Manager of the Year is code for. Now last year it wasn't, because if it was, Scott would have won it, rightfully so. So this year, Baltimore has been such a fun story that I think that, the national writers will pick Baltimore in this case. And I think that's a mistake, because to me, it's Scott Servais, and then it's probably a gap, and then it's Hyde, and then it's probably a gap. And then, you could throw Kevin Cash in there. He's always great. So it's one of those things where
watch John Schneider. I'm talking about Blue Jays interim manager John Schneider, not Seahawks general manager John Schneider. Watch him get votes here after taking over for Charlie Montoyo, and they were in a playoff position when Charlie Montoyo got fired. He did nothing. He just kept them in the same place that they were in. So let's not give votes to John Schneider. Let's not give votes to Brandon Hyde. This is Scott Servais's award, man. This is Scott Servais's award.
It should be, but I don't think it will be. So we'll see. It's one of those things. I just think that a lot of the time people overthink these things, and they try to be like, oh, like who's the biggest surprise? And that's what the award has become again, except for last year when the Mariners were clearly the biggest surprise, and they were like, oh no, give it to the team that everybody expected to be good. And Kevin Cash,
the team that's literally the defending AL champions.
Yeah. Kevin Cash is a great manager. Don't get me wrong. And if it was just purely based on merit, then he or Bob Melvin would win it basically every year. It's not. It never has been. It's the same reason Belichick's won Coach of the Year like once in his entire career, and he's the best of all time. It's just one of those things that, once you have success, it's very hard to kind of crack in with these, like executive and manager and support staff awards, because it's just expected of you. So the Mariners look like they might win 90 games back-to-back years, certainly going to break the playoff drought this year. Seems like, pretty easy choice, but I don't trust the voters to get this one right. So I think it actually is going to be Hyde, just because for some reason, I don't think Servais has like I don't know if reputation is the right word. I just feel like he's missing something from the national conversation. Nobody ever mentions him. Nobody brings him up. Even, you talk about it's Jerry and it's Justin and people sometimes talk more about Manny Acta than they do Scott Servais. So I don't know. Scott's just kind of this forgotten guy, but no, he definitely deserves to win it this year. I don't think he will, but I absolutely think he should, and I think he should have won it last year. So it's one of those things where should be 2 in a row for Scott, and I think unfortunately he's probably going to go 0 for 2.
It's such a shame if that happens, because Scott Servais to me is one of the best culture builders in baseball. maybe the best. Of course, we're a little biased. We're not in the clubhouses all across the country, but still, it's just you look at the way that team plays. It plays for one another. The way that they accept new players into the clubhouse without a hitch, the way that they treat rookies with respect. That all starts with leadership. That all starts at the top. That starts with Scott Servais. That starts with his and Adam McKay's Andy McKay's philosophy and how they want things done there. Jerry DiPoto as well. Just everyone in that building and how Scott Servais leads that and brings that to the players and the way that he delivers that to the players. And obviously not everyone has been a fan of Scott Servais. Not everyone that has come into Scott Servais's clubhouse has been a fan of how he does things. And, look, there's going to be an audience for everyone and there's going to be haters for everyone. But Scott Servais to me has exemplified what a manager in baseball should be in 2022. Because, look, we do complain about some of the things that he does on the field, some of the, bullpen decisions that he makes or some of the lineup choices that he makes, etc. That's, that's all warranted. But being a manager goes way beyond putting a lineup together, goes way beyond, picking the right reliever in the right, situation in a game. It's about building a culture. It's about building a welcoming family in that clubhouse, and Scott Servais has done that and then some, with flying colors. Like he's the leader of all that in baseball to me, really. Like he should be what every other team looks at when they're looking to hire a manager. I want to check all these boxes that Scott Servais checks. And for that, I think he should be awarded. He should be nationally recognized with this award. I just, like you said, I don't know if the voters are actually going to see that. But to me, even when you're just stacking up the stories, right? What drives the most content here? It's the Mariners ending the playoff drought, not the Orioles surprisingly making the postseason. Yeah, that's a huge surprise. That's an incredible run that the Orioles are on. And if they're actually able to finish this thing off and catch the Blue Jays or even catch the Mariners, knock on wood, or catch the Rays, what have you, to me, it's, if the Mariners actually end the 20-year playoff drought, Scott Servais is the guy. It should be by default. It should be automatic. That should be like, there should be a clause for the voters that it's like, okay, if the Mariners in the drought, we just have to give it to Scott Servais. Like, that's the biggest story in baseball to me this year. And if he does that, if he accomplishes that, that outreigns everything else. That outweighs every single other thing that could possibly happen in baseball this regular season to me.
Ty, I do want to confess something here, though. I don't care.
I know you don't. I know you don't care about the award. Yeah.
It's the manager of the year. I could not care less. Rookie of the year, fine, whatever. Because I got a guy in the game, sure, but like manager of the year, I don't care.
Yeah, but I think it's good for someone like Scott Servais to be recognized in that way for all of his hard work.
Yeah, it's nice for Scott. It's nice for Scott, but doesn't affect me any, so I don't care. Like, it's not even good content. Like, we're gonna do a whole show about Scott Servais's best moments because he won manager of the year. No, nah, I don't care.
All right.
I hope he wins it. I hope he wins it. If he doesn't, I'm not going to take to Twitter and rampage. I'll just say that. Like, okay.
Yeah, no, I think that it's, he's very much deserving. They are going to give out the award, whether we like it or not. And I think that he should win it. All right. So let's move on. Mitch Haniger, is he staying? Is he going this offseason? Obviously, he's coming to the end of his contract. He's going to be a free agent. The Mariners can slap a qualifying offer on him. And we had Ryan Divish on the show a few weeks ago, and he said he didn't think that Mitch Haniger was interested in coming back. He didn't think that even maybe the Mariners were interested in bringing Haniger back. But then Jeff Passan of ESPN hopped on 710 Seattle Sports and told those guys over there that he thinks that's pretty much a done deal, that Mitch Haniger is going to be a Mariner in 2023. Whether he accepts the qualifying offer, which would be around $20 million if we're going off of what it was last year, and just taking inflation into account as well, or he could sign a longer term deal with the Mariners as well. Passan believes that either of those things are going to happen this offseason. So, Colby, I know that you have said on multiple occasions over the last month or so that you think this is just something that's going to happen by default, that both of these sides just kind of need each other for 2023. And so explain that.
Yeah, so you kind of look at where Mitch is at in his career. He's past his 30s. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, including, again, this year, missing a majority of the season. He's an outfielder, corner outfielder who's not very good out there. Certainly not plus. He's a 45 grade glove at best. Still has a strong arm. Still a pretty good athlete, but just not getting the jumps he used to. Not doesn't have an explosive first step. He's a guy who should be DHing more than he is for Seattle even right now. So, you kind of look at that type of player on the market with the injury history. There's just not going to be a lot of people offering him a multi-year deal, if any team. So you kind of look at that and you say, well, if Mitch Haniger is going to get a 1-year deal, maybe a 2-year deal, okay, is it better to do that, or is it better for the Mariners to slap the qualifying offer on him? And for Mitch to come back to a place he knows the clubhouse, he knows the culture. He's a fan favorite. He'll have helped in the first play or the longest playoff drought, blah, 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 all of that stuff. And make probably the same amount of money he would on a 2-year deal somewhere else. It just makes sense. And if you're the Mariners, you have to make your offense better. It has to get better. And if you lose your, arguably your best bat or second best bat, whatever order you want to put them in, not only do you have to go get 2 more bats on top of what you have right now you have to go replace Mitch Haniger. So in reality, you need 3, above average, 120 WRC plus type of bats. And so it's just one of those, and you have to do that on a budget. I mean, the Mariners aren't going to go out and spend ridiculous amounts of money this offseason as much as we might want them to. They're not. So it just makes sense for the Mariners to bring back Haniger. It's one less item they need on their shopping list. It's a guy who's established in that clubhouse. He's a leader in that clubhouse. He's well liked in the community. It's just kind of a no-brainer for them on a short-term basis. And for Mitch, he's just probably not going to get that many opportunities. So when you kind of look at it, even if the Mariners want to move on from Haniger, even if Haniger wants to move on from the Mariners, I don't think there's going to be an opportunity for both sides to get what they want here. And therefore, I kind of think that what we're looking at is a marriage out of necessity for the 2023 season, because if Mitch can come back, be healthy next year, produce, then he might go get his 3-year, or maybe his 4-year, whatever, like Marcelo Zuna type of deal that maybe he wants, but he's not going to get that this winter. At least it seems highly unlikely. So the Mariners need Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger needs the Mariners, and the two sides it feels like they have to make something work here, because I mean, why wouldn't you? It makes too much sense for these two sides to figure out something on a short-term basis.
It feels like even with the success that Haniger has had when he's been healthy over the last couple of years, that the injury history is going to be a major cause for concern in negotiations with teams. And therefore that's going to lead to a lot of 1-year offers. And if he has the qualifying offer attached to him, which I can't imagine a world where it isn't attached to him, the Mariners would be stupid not to place the qualifying offer on him, whether or not you think he's a $20 million player or what have you. It's a 1-year deal. It doesn't matter. The Mariners should slap that qualifying offer on him, because if he does pick up and leave, you get a draft pick out of that at least.
Yep.
But if the qualifying offer is on him, and with the injury history, he could be the next Michael Conforto. He could I could very well see Mitch Haniger going into spring training, maybe even the regular season, without a team. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Michael Conforto this year, and of course he got hurt, or at least Scott Boras claims that he got hurt.
Conforto is a better player than Haniger.
Yeah.
And he got nothing this offseason. He wanted 5 and 100. Nobody gave it to him. He didn't take the qualifying offer. I think he got tendered the qualifying offer. Didn't take it. And then he got hurt, apparently, training, and that kind of ended his market. Well, with a guy with Mitch Haniger's injury history, getting hurt while training seems like something that's a very realistic scenario that he has to be worried about. So I just think, Michael Conforto is the cautionary tale here. And Mitch Haniger is not really at a stage where he can afford to lose a year sitting around doing nothing. So yeah, I mean, because Conforto didn't really have these injury issues until this offseason. So to me, I think Conforto is a cautionary tale. If the Mariners tender the qualifying offer, I think Mitch should immediately take it. If they don't, which I suppose is possible, they think they can get him for cheaper. Then Mitch can go out and get what he can, but I really doubt that he's going to get anything more than 2 years at you know $22 million. I really don't think it's going to be worth all that much. And if you're Mitch, again, you want 2 and 22, or do you want 1 and 15, and you go to that one team that is going to compete, that you're established there, everything about that organization. The familiarity factor is just off the charts there. So it's just one of those things that, to me, if Haniger or the Mariners just decide that this isn't worth it, and Haniger just sits out there, or the Mariners don't put the qualifying offer on him, it means that there is some real like actual tension between these two sides, and it's more Kyle Seager than we want it to be, or we expect it to be. So because the Mariners, there was no circumstance whatsoever that the Mariners would bring back Kyle Seager, and really no circumstance where Seager would come back with the Mariners. So just one of those things where it's kind of similar, both beloved by the community, but a lot of friction behind the scenes. Something the Mariners would never divulge, and we learned about from other means. So, that's kind of the only scenario where I see, Mitch Haniger not being back in Seattle, is that the Mariners view him as such a distraction that they don't care about anything else he brings. And I don't think Mitch is that guy, but I've been fooled before, so we'll see.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.